Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Mini Talk Show. We are discussing many topics regarding children's development and their mental health and their fitness. We know that right from the day one, when they have stepped into a school, we slowly start building up a very stressful environment for them. We try our level best to put them in the best of the schools because we want the best for them as parents. We are trying to uh, we want them to do best in their academics because it will open the lot of open doors for the good colleges and universities in the future. We want a bright future for our kids. But in this process, have we ever thought of, from the child's point of view, how stressful it would be education for them? Do they enjoy this education? Do they enjoy going to school because they get to play, they meet friends, or they also get to learn things? That is a very important question because the stress level is not decreasing, slowly it's growing. Also, for the parents, whether the parents are also under stress because they have to put them in the best of the schools, they have to give them whatever is possible so that their child's future is bright. From the teacher's perspective, is it not very stressful for them also to give the best of the education so that their students can do good in their examinations and do good in their to discuss that, to share the opinions and their experiences. Today we have invited a counselor, Yashmin Datta. We also have a student, Priya Chaudhary. We have a mother, Pahi Chaudhary, and we have a teacher, Susmita Lakkar, to discuss this and share their opinions. Let's join the show. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Gunashri. Good to be back.
Narisha, because I know you personally, so I just call you by your pet name. Anyways, Narisha, we are discussing here about a word called stress. So, have you ever come across stress in education during your educational life? You are still a student, right? So, what type of stress have you gone through?
Good evening, everyone. So the kind of stress that I went through was like during my boards exam. So there was like people when anyone approaches me like if I'm going to my tuitions and also anyone just asks me that oh which class you are, then if I say that class 10, then they be like, oh, board student. So that kind like I was the only student in the whole family that was approaching for boards in my whole family. So there was a kind of pressure that she'll get above 90 percentage, then she'll do this, then she's very good in studies. So that kind of pressure was there. So this kind of stress I went through. Like for my teachers also, they helped me a lot, and my maths teacher used to call me at 5 a.m. to like wake me up and do maths. So that kind of stress, yeah, I have went through.
Okay. So, what during that time, what you wanted to do exactly? When there was
During that
pressure,
time,
there was that pressure in you know you were getting that pressure, so what you wanted to do?
during that time, I wanted to just study. At that point of time, like everyone was saying that you have to study for 12 hours and all, then only it will be very good. And like for the previous year, the toppers studied for this hours and all. The news which was coming. So that kind during that point of time, I studied for a period of time, but after that, like I was very tired. So meditation, which my mom like suggested me, that before sleeping I used to do meditation, which helped me a lot. So that to deal with this kind of stress, I used to do that. And sometimes I used to watch TV and just refresh my mind and listen to music and all.
Okay. So this comparison that was that used to other parents or other people were doing with you. with the students from the past last year's students. So you felt bad? Did you feel bad about it?
Not,
That they have been comparing
no, I
you?
never felt. No, like not everyone compared me, but some of my family friends, like they were like, she'll do good, she'll do good than this his son and all. So some like a couple of people just said this. So not everyone told that. So yeah.
So this was, you were talking about, you're sharing this experience from your during your boards exam. What about your previous years when you were in school, when you were in high school? That time, did you get into any stress? Did you have any stress for studies? You didn't want to do it, but you were being forced to study, and you feel bad about it.
No, I wanted to study, but there were some subjects which I never wanted to study, like maths and all. So that kind of subject where like some subjects were there where I can study, like English and socials, I can study. But for some subjects like maths and science, especially in science, the physics part, which I'm very like I lag behind that part. So it was very like difficult for me to like cope up, and class 9 was like a bit difficult than class 10, moreover if we compare. So it was very difficult for me to like cope up with this maths and science basically.
Okay. So you had been doing tuitions or regularly attending the tuitions, and did you ever feel that no, I don't, for a week I don't want to go to any tuitions. I just want to stay home. I just want to relax. But those things were not happening. So did you
Yeah, I
ever feel
felt
that way?
that because yeah, I felt because some days like I had tuitions like after I come from school, it was around 2:30, then 3 my sir comes, like maths. After 3, like then he teaches me maths for 1 hour. Then from 4 again my tuition till 6. Then from 6 again my tuition till 8. So it was a very hectic schedule for me. Like, and then there was there during that period of time I never had this energy to self studying, because I literally had tuitions back to back after my school. So it was a bit hectic for me.
So weren't you you didn't you get exhausted at the by the end of the day for those particular days? When they were teaching,
Yes,
so
I was exhausted
and
till the last. Like maths tuition was a bit like after school I was like fresh enough for 15 minutes, then my sir comes. But till the last tuition, which was SMS 1 from 6 to 8, I was very exhausted. And like, but still like I had my peer group was like there. So my school group was in my SMS tuition as well. So I never like felt that exhausted because all of my friends were together. So I was not that like
you
exhausted.
you enjoyed that. Okay.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
So coming to Fahi, you being a mother, you being a working mother. So what type of stress have you did you go through?
First of all, a very good evening. Uh, I, being a mother, yes, a working mother, and provided the other way around, a single mother. So in that case, the stress level is too high. Okay, from going, since I'm a teacher by profession, so by going early in the morning to school, coming back home, then taking my daughter to her tutorials, you know, handling all by yourself, everything by yourself. And then again we have a, if I say that there's some kind of pressure that comes to you, that being a single mother you need to prove yourself more, you know. So that is a different kind of pressure you have it in you. Like, so in that case, taking my child to her tuition, keeping her there, dropping her there, picking it up, this kind of pressure I did feel, and especially while in class 9 and 10, because her tuitions and all was like in pretty two intervals of time. So a different kind of pressure was there. Like, it was a great pressure, I would rather say, because other way around, since I told you I'm a single mother, so a different kind of pressure from all the side was there. Rather than making her study, you know, Her results should also be good. Her results should be good. Sometimes I felt in order to prove myself, maybe that, so that kind of a pressure was there.
So how did you cope up with that stress?
See, I cope up in the sense I do meditation a bit. I am into a bit of a physical activity, which makes me, like I take the stress though. I take the stress subconsciously. The stress is still there in the back of my mind, but I tend to not take it in a direct way. I would rather say, in the direct way, I would not tend to take the stress level, because if I'm stressed, my daughter becomes more stressful. So in that case, like I tend to be more relaxed in that way around, so that my daughter doesn't get that stressful by looking at me. If I keep my child telling like, you studied this, you need to score 90% or so, she becomes more stressful. So in that case, I tend to cool myself down, and that way I used to do a meditation, and I used to go, since I run, so I used to go for a run or so, in order to relax myself, in order to calm myself, in order to get rid of those stress that is at the back of the mind mainly.
And did it ever affect your professional life because of your stress at home?
Not exactly, but sometimes it did. Like sometimes it did, because during it do happens like normally, when I am at school, sometimes her tuition was in the morning. So who will pick her up, will drop her down? Those kind of stress was there. Like at the back of my mind, like who will pick her up? Because my dad is like aging. Okay, if he goes and drop her, now will he be able to wait for another 1 hour? Those kinds of stress was there. Those kinds of stress was there, yeah. And which might, directly or indirectly hampered in my workspace.
Coming to Sushmita, you being a teacher again, so do you experience any sort of stress regarding your professional life with students, whether how they are doing?
All right, definitely. In fact, I was just about to add when Narisha was speaking that, that stress in school is not one-sided. It's definitely on us as well. Especially in private school setup, it's almost like a target that your whole bunch of students should, get 90% or should actually pass in this year around. So it really gets to us that our classes are enough for them to cope up, and whether it's really adequate for them to, tackle their own issues. In fact, to be, it would be strange enough to know that recently, in this recent lockdown period, some of my class 12 students had, had mentioned about the feeling of stress, the feeling of uncertainty about the future, because definitely they are the batch, the final year batch. So they have worries about, where their career would be taking them, whether their ambitions will be fulfilled or not. And it's really, I think, it's across all age groups. Stress is not just limited to only the adults or only the kids, or I think it's only the infants who are free of stress, I believe, to put it jokingly. But then apart from that, I think all of us face, like, be it our grandparents who still worry about their children and their grandchildren, or be it the children who worry about whether they can satisfy their teachers or the parents, or us, whether we can satisfy our bosses or our own constraints. Even sometimes it's like whether I'm doing enough for my students.
So how did you cope up with this stress? What did you do?
If you talk about my personal stress, it really affects me, actually.
It's related to the students. When you are getting stressed because of your school results, so how did you cope up with that stress?
Personally speaking, I don't stress my students much. I mean, I don't know, probably somebody will judge me of being too flexible a teacher, or maybe too cordial a teacher, because sometimes I even go to the extent that, okay, if you don't have time for your assignments, it's fine if you submit it over the weekend, because I can understand if you're too stressed with all your other subjects, I mean, either you will, neglect my subject, or you will not do a good job about it. So rather do it when you're really free, when you're in your good mind and you have some time in hand. So I personally speaking will never stress my students regarding be it submission, be it performance, but year around, almost in every year, in almost all the batches, I often reiterate this fact that see, your results is your own. Tomorrow when you go out to the big world, you will carry your own mark sheet. Whatever I dictate in class, however hard I say that study well, this is your last year in school, it's ultimately your own performance that matters. And you will have to answer yourself someday. Sometimes if you even regret after the results, maybe it's going to be too late. So that's something I always try to, put into my students, that at the end of the day, your report card is yours, no one else's.
Coming to you, Yashmin, give us an idea like whether the student, the parent, and the teacher is being able to take stress positively, or they needed to do some more things or to have a better life, or to have a peaceful environment around themselves.
Hello, everyone again. When we're talking about stress, it's not a one-time thing that we can do to alleviate it. There are things that we have to do throughout, not just, the night before an exam, for instance. And one of the things that's very important is the nutrition, the eating part. What we eat is also very important, because we cannot, fight stress, or we cannot fight anything that is invading us, whether that's physically or psychologically, unless we have the energy, unless we are feeding our bodies things that will help us better. Like, in fact, when people are trying to cope with stress, what is the usual is to resort to drinking alcohol, smoking, or even doing drugs, or mostly ignoring what is, avoiding the source of stress. Now, that can be useful only to a small extent. Ultimately, it will catch up with you. I mean, of course, it doesn't go away, right? So the thing that we have to do is to start from the beginning, or somewhat of a lifestyle, we have to incorporate in us, where we are eating well, we are exercising regularly, and both Pahi and Naresha mentioned about meditation. Yes, that's one of the things that really help with stress management. And people often get intimidated, or they don't like the word meditation. In fact, there's a lot of evidence, personally as well, I have found that meditation is very effective in dealing with stress, because it helps us to bring focus, it helps us to calm ourselves down. So that's very important when we are trying to deal with stress. And when we are stressed out, we often get into this whole cycle of, oh, I'm feeling so stressed out, and start getting to the crazy thinking sort of cycle. I'm feeling so stressed out, and I'm doing well, and ultimately you don't do well because you're so anxious about your performance, and then you're like, oh, I failed in this, and then the stress just keeps on getting greater and greater, or you start to feel more and more stressed out. So these things we have to incorporate in our day-to-day existence: eating, exercising, also having a recreation. Like Sushmita mentioned, we engage in from time to time on a regular basis. That will help us to cope with stress better, because there's a saying, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. That is actually true, because if we only keep working, the brain will start losing its efficiency, and then the more stressed out we feel, the less able we are to perform in our tasks that we need to be doing. And so an outlet which helps us to feel good about ourselves, because this is something that we're going to do for ourselves, right? It's something that we're interested in. That gives us a sense of achievement, a sense of well-being. And so we come back to our work or our studies feeling refreshed. And that, in fact, has shown to improve efficiency. Often I've heard parents say that there's no need to waste your time doing, your engaging in your hobbies. Actually, it's actually helping you to become more efficient if you're engaging in your hobbies. Now, the hobby shouldn't be so distracting at the same time that we start engaging in the hobby as a primary activity and give up on our work or responsibility or studies or what we have to be doing at that time. Then also looking at the support system. I think for students, parents, teachers, other students who are their peers can be a part of the support system. So whenever the child wants to talk to their parent, keeping that line of communication open at home, which nowadays parents are opening up about that, and they are incorporating talking about things at home, which is a very good sign. So that, to maintain that and to keep doing it and to make it a culture in the home, that is important. Also in the school, having that level of comfort with the students and making them feel that you are an approachable person and you can talk with this teacher and I can discuss anything I want and they will not judge me. These are things that are also important in terms of a support system. And I cannot stress enough on making a schedule, especially now when people are not going to school physically but are taking online classes. Often I've heard of people, not just students, who say that I wake up whenever, I sleep whenever, and that's very taxing to the system, to the person physically and eventually mentally, because the body gets confused. Should I be waking up at this time or should I be sleeping at this time? And that can add to a lot of stress. So getting organized, making a plan, also assigning the amount of time that we're going to spend on a particular activity is very important, because just making the plan that you have these things to do, but not recognizing that you will need a particular amount of time to do these activities, that also has to be incorporated. And also being reasonable about the plan, not like, oh, today I will conquer the world, not something like that. Suppose you want to clean your library at home, or you have stacks of books. Maybe today I'll clean one rack or one shelf, not I'll do everything today, because that becomes too much and you start thinking, even before you've begun, you start thinking about the enormity of the task and you just start to give up on it already before you even start. So that reasonable amount also is important. And meditation, like Pahi and Narisha mentioned, is really helpful. And people often shy away from meditation because it the usual stereotypical image of meditation is doing an Om mantra or being very serious about it, but it doesn't have to be serious. And it's the simplest thing to do in the sense that it doesn't require equipment, it doesn't require a particular place as such. You can start doing it anywhere. And there are different ways of doing it. You can do guided meditations, you can do focusing on your breath meditation. So many things, and really helps us to bring focus into what is happening with us, getting conscious of our senses in where we are feeling stressed out, or are we able to relax our breath, monitoring. All of those things are incorporated in meditation. So it's really a good practice to incorporate in our day-to-day existence. It's not, again, a one-time thing. People have also gotten good results from journaling, so writing in a diary every day, or most effectively writing once every other day, so maybe 3 times a week. That has been most effective for most people. And journaling, it can be very private. You can even burn the pages if you like, but writing with a pen or a pencil is important. The physical aspect of journaling is very important. Just typing it out on a computer or a device, the tech device, is not as effective as actually writing with a pen or a pencil on a piece of paper.
It's basically burning out
your. Yeah, these are some of the things
feeling.
that we can. Right. And it doesn't have to be shared with anyone if you don't feel comfortable. It can be destroyed also afterwards. These are some of the things we can do, and ultimately, if the person feels that these things are not helping, then seeking the help of a professional, a psychologist, a counselor, or even a doctor initially, who's their usual family doctor or physician, and then they can guide you further from there.
If we are not taking the stress level seriously right now, if we're not being able to cope up with the stress, what could be the side effects? Is there any long-term effects because of that? Because currently we are not working on it. We are just ignoring, or we are just delaying the whole process. okay, we will check it out later on?
Yes, there are quite a few effects of not dealing with stress, or the signs that we might notice initially, which might be manageable at that point, and then we let it go and say that I'll get over it. That can actually have a lot of adverse consequences if we let it build up. And it can affect not only our work but our relationships as well, because we start to become irritable and we start to snap at people, and then we don't feel present in the moment because we are so caught up with the stress kind of overpowers or overwhelms us at that point.
Thank
So
you,
yes, we
Yashvi.
really need to focus and look at all of that before it becomes too much to deal with and affects other people around us.
So it's basically we need to eat well, we need to exercise regularly, we need to have recreational activities, we need to journalize our feelings, and we need to meditate. So these are some things which can definitely we need to have some family time too, so that we can actually cope up with the stress level. We can reduce, not completely,
Right.
but at least we can reduce a little bit of our stress level. Thank you so much for joining.
Right, it can be more manageable then.
Exactly. Thank you so much for
You're welcome.
joining in this talk show. It was nice talking to everyone and sharing their experiences in their own perspective. Was a something our viewers will enjoy also, because they can at least relate to a parent, relate to a student, and relate to a teacher. So thank you so much. We'll come back again for
Thank you
another
so
talk
much
show with a
for inviting.
Thank
new
you.
episode. Till then, good night.
Good night.